Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I'll talk about how I got into motorcycle riding. So my story starts as a teenager. I used to love driving cars, and I started driving when I was 9 or 10 thanks to my grandfather. But anyhow, when I started growing up, things changed for me. It was very hard for me to transition from driving cars to motorcycles. Since I came to America, I was riding bicycles. Because of the traffic here, I never even gave a thought about buying a car for myself. And then I realized that that was a really good decision. But riding bicycles all day long was very tedious process. Like I had to ride from Queens to the city to my college, and then when I started going uptown and we moved uptown, I had to ride all the way from downtown to uptown. Sometimes it was okay, but then I figured out I wanted something bigger and better. Like they say, go big or go home. So I switched from bicycles to motorcycles. Way before the pandemic, I actually gave a thought to this process. I was like, I should actually buy a motorcycle. I went to many dealerships, but I couldn't convince myself enough to buy a motorcycle. First of all, the bikes here are very expensive. In my country where I come from, you can buy a Honda bike for like $1,000. But in this country, $1,000 won't even get you a Chinese scooter. So for me, it was the whole budget thing, and I felt like I need to save a lot more just to buy myself a motorcycle. So following next year, I figured out I had saved up enough. And now I'm kind of a guy who'd either buy something I really love than to get something I can afford. That's what I did. So I went to this Harley dealership and I started looking at bottom of the line. So the Sportster starts from $10,000, and with taxes and license and everything it would go up to 12 grand. And that at that moment was my first choice because I thought this is gonna be my first motorcycle, and now I should be basically. I convinced myself that this is what I'm gonna do. It was a very hard decision for me to convince my parents since they're very old school, and they did everything in their book to make me stop from this purchase I was gonna make. But I kept on going, and in my third trip to the dealership, I felt like that the bike wasn't offering much for the price, and the price tag was there just because it was a Harley. And at that moment, I felt like maybe I need a bigger model. So I started browsing the whole dealership and I came across this bike. I really liked it, but it was something around 18 grand, and then you had to pay taxes and everything, so it would go up to 22 grand. It was a lowrider. I basically felt like I need to look more into it. So I came back home. My original budget was 15 grand, and the bike was way over my budget. So I head back home. I started looking at other companies like Honda and Kawasaki. But I always wanted to experience the true freedom and what Harleys were all about as a child. So I was like, maybe this is the time I should step up my game. So I borrowed 5 grand more from a friend of mine, and I went back to the dealership. When I walk into the dealership, I see this motorcycle that has a river rock gray color, basically more like a military color, and I just fell in love with it. I asked the guys if I can take it for the test ride, and they were like, yeah, you could. Do you have a license? And remember, this license part is very tricky. But at that time, I did have a motorcycle's license. So I said, yes, sure. I showed them my license and we went for the test ride. I came back from the test ride and I didn't even test ride any other motorcycle. That was me test riding the very first motorcycle at a Harley dealership. And I put my security deposit for it. Very next day, I go and sign the paperwork, pay full cash, like if I'm a baller, and then the bike's mine. The rest is history. So that was my first experience buying a Harley Davidson. But everything has its goods and bad. So I actually figured out that maybe I could have bought a better bike, but I was wrong. This was the best decision I have ever made. So I'm very satisfied with my purchase. And now I'm gonna show you quick run around like how my bike looks and the very few clips I have when I went to the dealership and I was eyeing the bike. So stay updated.